I believe we're on. Okay, welcome to the January 10th, 2023 Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District meeting. And right now I'm going to call this meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And our first item on the agenda is public comment. I know we have a couple people who want to speak to us tonight. Come forward there, Mr. Hennis. We're glad to see you back in the chamber here.
I didn't know if I was going to be back here, but what brought me back is some very sad news. I just want to kind of go over a few things. Our former colleague and good friend, Steve Ponte, passed away on Friday, December 23rd, originally having suffered a seizure on the tennis courts on Wednesday, October 5th. He was taken by ambulance to the best brain facility on this side of town, which is Fairview Southdale. He was given some tests. It was found out that he was suffering from a brain tumor. They did the surgery 2 days later on Friday, and I went in to see him the Monday after, and he had a big scar that was stapled on the right side over his temple, and things kind of went downhill there real fast. After that, he during the surgery, I should say, he was bleeding so bad, the doctors tried to cauterize some of the blood flow being lost, and he suffered a stroke. And it ended up crippling his left arm and left hand for the rest of his life. He was moved to different facilities. He started to get a little better. Eventually, here in, as I told some of the managers, out here at Norabella, a new senior nursing home on Pike Lake Road in 42. I got to visit him a few times. I know President Loney did once, and he was doing pretty well. Although, knowing Steve, he went and bought his own electric stimulator machine, trying to get his left arm and hand going. Never did do too much, but anyway, on Friday, December 23rd, he was late for supper. Nurse went in to remind him, and he was there in a restful sleeping position in his lounge chair, facing the window. He had passed away. So it was sometime in the later afternoon of that day. So that's kind of the story of what went on. Just a series of unbelievable events in a time period of less than 3 months, 2.5 months. So just want to go through things quickly here. I know you guys got plenty to do as usual. Steve was the president of the CAC for approximately 5 years. He started shortly after I did, and I came on the board in February of 2013. He was instrumental in really getting the organization going, and back then he didn't get a lot of support versus the support he gets from the office and the administrator. Now he had to do 99% of everything himself. Create the agenda, type up the agenda, Xerox the agenda, try to motivate people into coming, try to keep a CAC committee of at least 7 members. One thing about Steve, he always had ideas. He was an idea man. I always called him the Newt Gingrich of the Citizens Advisory Committee. He served in that for about 5 years, and then there was a brief interlude in there, and then he was appointed at the same time as Manager Boyles was about. He was appointed to fill out Fred Corrigan's term, and that would have been July of 2021, and he served there until, or of 2020, I'm sorry, July of 2020. Then he served out that term, which had about half a term left, a year and a half, until March of 2022, when he was not reappointed. During this time, I got to be good friends with Steve. We had a number of things in common, mostly our love of baseball. And just as an aside, I think Steve up in heaven right now is smiling at Carlos Correa coming back to the Twins out of nowhere. It's he would be thrilled by this, absolutely thrilled. Whatever else I want to talk about was his tremendous energy. For all everyone should know that the day before he suffered the seizure at the tennis courts, he had biked 17 miles, and he did this a lot. He was a big biker, biked 17 miles and played doubles pickleball the same day, the very same day. And he was also a big doubles tennis player. He also participated in a lot of softball. He played softball, one of our soil and water supervisors over in Shakopee. And I know he played pickleball doubles. I know he played with Bruce, but you guys saw each other both at Dakota Sports Facility, the Tribes place, and at the Spring Lake Regional Park who set up there. So it's a tough thing. Like I said, he's younger than I am, in 100% better shape than I am. And I've been retired for like 9 years. He didn't get 1 year in. Didn't even get 1 year in. He was officially off the books as of March, and he died in December. So we never know what's going to happen when the good Lord's going to. I ask you to keep him in your prayers, in love for him, for knowing him in the past, for being blessed with knowing him in the past, and that we go forward always with Steve's energy and ambition and interest in water quality in the water, the Prior Lake, Spring Lake Watershed District. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. I got on this board in 2019. Steve's one of the very first people I met with Kurt, but Steve always had like Kurt said, a passion for the watershed. He always was on time for a CAC meeting, filled in admirably on our board. And I still, even when I play pickleball with him, we always talked a little bit about the watershed and what's going on, some of his ideas and how we can make it work better. So I appreciate Steve, and the things, when I got to know him more, the more you get to know somebody, the better you like him. Steve was one of those guys. He actually was an impersonator, believe it or not. If you can ever, it was a skinny Elvis impersonation. And he just did a really good comedy act. He loved it. So he did a lot of things. Appreciate it. I don't know, Frank, you maybe want to say a few words or do a moment of whatever.
Well, I was going to comment about Steve's concern about people and how he manifested it in such a very, very positive way. I remember a couple of the staff members who went on in their career, and Steve always take part in the retirement parties, making some jokes, trying to keep things light, making it an easy transition. He did that for me at my retirement as well. And, I was shocked by it, frankly, but it showed the kind of character that Steve had, and certainly we're going to miss him in a whole host of ways.
Christian?
Yes, I also wanted to thank you to all of you for your kind words, and I wish Steve very much. A good friend, and he always inspired all of us to do the best for water quality, and he was a fountain of knowledge, and he had a lot of local experience. Like at Lake Volney, he took very personal leadership and helped that lake to improve the water quality significantly, and inspired us when we worked with our lake. He also was part of helping us restart the newer Spring Lake Association, where he was very good at sort of those initial responses. So we will miss you, Steve, and we will see you again.
Yes, I guess we just all are ready to say we really thank Steve for what he's done for us, and we miss him. So, anybody else? Matt, you okay? All right. Thank you, Kurt, for those words of tribute. All right. Anybody else? Wes, I think you have approached the board.
I think it's on now. It's kind of tough to follow up comments by Kurt. My condolences, Steve and his family. Steve very well, but the short time I had a chance to engage with him, I found him to be a very, very good person. So, my condolences. My name is Wesley Stephan, excuse me. My address is 2350 Raymond Avenue, Minnesota. I am currently the president of the Spring Association, and consistent with what Steve had a passion for, I guess, I'm slowly gaining the passion for water quality as well. One of the key objectives that the association has for 2023, and has been, I think, consistent through the years, is to work with our lake partners, improve our lake quality, and make it a better place to enjoy. Some of our initiatives that we've got in place this year is part of that lake improvement is to work with the watershed district with the bluegill stocking. We're going to start a Keep It Clean campaign, something that Lake Mille Lacs and Lake of the Woods has been doing for a number of years, directed towards ice fishermen leaving trash on the lake. Last year, we were awarded a grant by the DNR to try to mitigate and manage the Eurasian water milfoil. That grant was $50,000 to cover both last year and this year. Last year, we spent $27,000 of that treating 20 acres of milfoil. And along with that, we also conducted an aquatic seminar trying to get people more aware of the importance of the native plants and all of the aquatic invasive species that reside in our lake. We plan on working with the watershed this year and doing a second seminar by I've been working with Shauna, Elizabeth to make that happen sometime in July. That is part of the education process that we want to put in place for our association members. So one area that I think we need further discussion on is the area of addressing the curly. We can gather a short-time person on the lake. I've only been here for 3 years now, but I understand that the watershed has been managing this for probably over 20 plus years. The records I see on the watershed district starts out in 2000, at which point we did, or I should say you did, a combination of herbicide and mechanical removal treatment. In early years, you did almost 60 acres on the lake. In subsequent years, there's a break in, but in most recent years, I think the average amount of equipment has been around 15 acres. So, in the most recent years, in 2021 and 2022, we did 22 acres and then 8 acres last year. But unfortunately, this treatment approach doesn't address the area that was within 150 feet of the shore. In other words, what is considered the open water is always what's treated, and it's left up to the shore owners to take care of the 150 feet. Unfortunately, in response to the number of companies that serve, they normally don't get on the lake to treat anything until mid-June or late June, which for curly-leaf pondweed is too late in the season. It's already had a chance to grow, propagate, and cause a nuisance. So the best time for curly-leaf pondweed is in the early May timeframe. So what we'd like to do going forward is look that, how do we approach this from not only the open water area, but also the area that's within 150 feet? Looking at some of the maps that were created back in 2021, when we treated 22 acres, you would draw a line away from the treated areas, that would be about another 3,000 feet of area that could be possibly treated. At times 150 feet, and you end up with roughly about 10 additional acres. At $200 an acre, that's what the cost would probably be for this year. That's an additional $2,000. So what we'd like to do going forward 2023 is, number one, we sent out an out letter to all of the residents on Spring Lake because of water milfoil. Those people had the responsibility, if they did not want their shoreline treated, to let us know that they didn't want to treat it. We got 2 responses back out of over 200 letters we mailed out. The second thing we'd like to do is have a delineation by Blue Water Science. And that delineation cost that we've already gotten for just that area that is possible within 150 feet is only going to cost $400. And then, of course, based on the delineation, we'd like to see about having the treatment, have the treatment done in those areas. Using some of the numbers, that'd be around $1,000 based on the 21. But I'd like to see if the watershed would consider including that portion within your cost for doing the open water as well. We will cover the cost for the delineation to see if there is any actual curly-leaf pondweed in those areas. So the thing about curly-leaf pondweed, it doesn't recognize boundaries, it doesn't recognize open water, it doesn't recognize shore owners. So it just kind of goes wherever it wants to go. So thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Any questions from anybody on the board for Wes? If I would suggest your request that you've made, get them over to our staff for kind of an official take on their behalf, and then we can consider it as a future board item.
Okay, sounds very good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wes. Thanks for. Okay. Anybody else want a public comment? I don't see anybody else. I think we're all good. All right. So now we need to approval of the agenda. Any changes or anything from staff? I don't believe there is anything.
So moved.
Approval by Frank. Second by Matt for approval of the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're going to go on to old and new business now. First item is programs and project update. Take it over, staff. Who's going to?
Board managers, projects and programs update. We'll start with our carp management program. We have been out tracking carp on foot twice a week over the last few weeks. So we're finding low numbers of tags right now, and they're dispersed. In Upper Prior Lake, they're on the north side. In Spring Lake, we've got 2 confirmed tags in what we would consider close to the seine hall, which is good news. What we're waiting for is more tags to show up in this location. That location's favored by our inland commercial netter, Don Geyer, who's aware of our interest in seine netting. Don Geyer's excited about coming back to Spring Lake this winter. So as soon as those fish are in those tagged carp are in a favorable aggregation, then we'll move forward with contracting the commercial netters. So we've got a couple areas of uncertainty right now, and that's ice conditions primarily. As most people are aware that a lot of snow is impacting the lake right now for travel. So that's going to be one thing to watch. But we'll continue moving forward with tracking carp. Another interesting piece of carp management work that we've conducted this past board meeting is we've submitted application for funding from Rotary Club of Prior Lake for a backpack electrofishing unit. So this was just a submittal for funds, but the district would operate this equipment for timely stream removals, which we had success in last year, 2022, and removed large amounts of carp in Prior Lake. This funding request would ask for 75% of the cost of the unit with a 25% match from the carp management program. And this would serve residents in the community by improving long-term water quality goals. So we'll continue looking for funding sources throughout the program to help meet our goals. Also in December and January, staff got out exploring and testing methods to aid in district coordinated removal events should that need arise. So we have some novel equipment to string lines underneath the ice to prepare for seining events. So a little bit of time spent preparing for removal events could really help us mitigate some of the issues that we've had in the past with moving vehicles or carp moving during the day of the event. So these actions could help improve our chances at a successful seine.
Okay, and I'm going to provide some updates on the projects we've been working on. Just in general, an update for you all that we contracted with a real estate specialist and we have met with them to begin discussing strategy on how we'll begin to approach it. Landowners involved in the projects we're looking at, I think that will be a big focus for a lot of the projects coming up this year, is making sure our project concepts are in line with a landowner's vision and willingness to work with us. So one example of that is Sutton Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter. This project will need to look at the initial site that was chosen. There are some landowner concerns and also potentially some alternative sites that we could evaluate in the coming year. The Spring West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter is still requiring some coordination with Scott County staff to understand their planning for future road right-of-ways, and we did discuss some potential ideas for this project site and the flexibility around that with the real estate specialist also. Wetland enhancement was discussed at the board workshop, so you're a little bit familiar, but this draft feasibility report was submitted to DNR. We requested feedback by January 26th in hopes we could present the final feasibility study at the February board meeting. We are still attempting to reach the landowners that were not in attendance at the landowner meeting, and we'll continue to reach out and feasibility study to its final form based on feedback we receive. We are working with DNR to receive comments back on the Sutton management plan. That has been delayed due to the chronic waste staffing shortage issues at DNR, so heard that those comments are coming soon. But yet to see. We're hopeful that we'll be able to submit a final report for approval in February, but I've been working closely with DNR to track that. And then two other projects listed here. the chemical treatment systems in Ditch 13 and the Buck Channel are plans for 2024. So no movement on those this year. These two projects on this slide are had 2 grant requests submitted to Bowser for funding. That grant request was approved in January, so I'll be working on submitting work plans for both the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter and the Fish Lake Management Plan update. Each of those projects will come to hopefully the next board meeting, if not the March board meeting, with a grant agreement, hopefully pending approval of the work plan, and also some contract approvals for consultants that will need to work on those projects. So excited to get those projects up and running. And we're also continuing to move forward on the 2 flood reduction projects that were discussed at last board workshop. The board selected Project 6 and Project 1 as the first projects that we would look at pursuing in 2023. We're also submitting an MPCA grant application this week, actually. That would be used to kind of supplement the funding needed to look at feasibility studies for up to 2 flood reduction studies. And those will be, the first steps on those projects will be to reach out to landowners and see where we can overlap landowner interests and the district's goals.
Questions for that? I had just one. I know we talked about the PLOC pipelining at our board retreat and in other meetings, so I think we kind of all agreed to move forward on that project. So, Joni, if you want to say a few words about that.
Yes, President Loney and managers. So it was expressed by the Board of Managers a desire to start investigating doing a lining the Prior Lake Outlet Channel pipe that's a half-mile long segment. So staff will be soliciting proposals from consultants to put together the lining construction project and for going out to bid to contractors. So we will start getting that process moving very, very quickly here.
Okay, thanks. You guys got a lot of projects in the hopper, so should be a busy 2023. Frank, yeah, it's like,
Already was. With respect to the monitoring programs and our whiskey database, is that ever done? Or is that one of these things where you just keep loading? And
Yeah.
I mean, is it usable at this point?
Manager Boyles, those are continuous programs, and we are, so a little more information on the whiskey database. We're still in the process of transferring and setting it up. We're taking the long route of creating a lot of processes right now so that it can operate much more efficiently in the future. So we've currently just been pretty busy to dedicate as much time as we had hoped. So, you know, we've been a little lagging on completing the setup on it, but it's coming along. And the monitoring program is kind of one of those that just plugs along. The last month or two, it's really since end of summer, early fall has been pretty minimal as far as progress on any sort of monitoring.
any other questions from board members? Not seeing any? Okay, we'll go to the next item of business, which is 4.2, 2023 board officer appointments. Every year, at the first of the year, we need to nominate and vote on 4 officer positions: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So the positions are listed here in the memo. what the president does and the vice president, secretary, and the treasurer. I won't go into that, but right now, currently, I'm the president, Manager Boyles is vice president, Manager Burnett is secretary, and Manager Morkenberg is the treasurer. We all got those positions started last July, so we've only been in it for 6 months. I think we discussed this at our board retreat, and we probably would like to continue in the same fashion for this year. But to do that, I would need someone to nominate that, and then we would vote on those positions. Anybody? I don't know if I can vote it. Frank, this is you. Frank, this is your.
I'll move the recommendation for the board officers for the year 2023 as proposed.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. And just to clarify, continue with the same positions and the same persons in those positions for 2023. Any other discussion? Not discussion, not hearing any, not seeing any. I assume you're all ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next one is liaison appointment, which we do at the first of the year, the 2023 board liaison appointments. We have several liaisons that we keep in contact with our partners and other agencies to better facilitate what they're doing and what we're doing. And again, we did these liaisons in July and really been in those liaisons for only 6 months. One additional liaison for 2023 is Manager Boyles would be our representative for the Minnesota Association of Watershed Districts quarterly meetings. And Frank has so graciously accepted to do that for us. So he's on the list. So I would make a recommendation that we approve the 2023 board liaison appointments as included in the packet.
So moved.
So moved by Ben, second by Matt. Any discussion on these appointments? Not hearing any, not seeing any. I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to 4.4, which is a Scott County Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Plan. Who has this one? Jeff?
Yep. The Scott County AIS Rapid Response Plan was really developed out of interest in the 2020 to 2030 Water Resource Management Plan as a project to establish a rapid response plan. The district worked with Scott County, specifically Melissa Bachman, during a time when both the district and the county had been working to establish a rapid response plan in an effort to reduce project overlap, and in an area where Scott County gets funding to distribute AIS projects and meet their goals. The district worked with Melissa and the county to help make this plan work with the district's needs. And this was approved by the Board of Managers in, I think, the June 2023 board workshop to move forward with providing the Scott County AIS Rapid Response Plan enough detail for us to want to support and adopt this. So this planning project, so the Rapid Response Plan covers early detection, which is through boat inspections, vegetation surveys, volunteers. The goal of that is to really follow along with the best defense is good offense to reduce the amount of AIS entering the county and district lakes. The rapid response it puts together procedures, which are assessments and actions for suspected new infestations, and it creates a table and a procedural list of how to react to AIS. Scott County has around $70,000 to respond to infestations according to this plan, where $50,000 would be dedicated to treatments and $20,000 for surveys. In the district, how it would work would be that the district and its supporting lake associations would lead any sort of efforts and then be approved by Scott County and the DNR. This rapid response plan and prevention plan are kind of a package deal. Through the efforts, staff support this plan, and staff recommends that managers vote to accept the Scott County Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Plan 2023-24 and the Scott County Aquatic Invasive Species Rapid Response Plan for 2023. Any questions? Yeah.
I was reading on the rapid response plan, page 2, the last paragraph was a little confusing to me regarding Eurasian water milfoil found in 11 Scott County public waters with public access. And then it goes on to say, except cedar, cleary, fish, lower Pryor, and Spring Lakes. Is that accurate?
Manager Tofinelli, that is not accurate. Some of this information, which we did not catch, is pulled off of digital databases, and those databases are not correct.
Okay, thank you. I was confused on the lower and upper Pryor, and if that were the case, I was wondering how that was possible. I also had one other question, if I
Yes,
may.
keep going.
If we have any examples of where we were able to eliminate any of these aquatic species once they've been detected. And Christmas Lake was cited in this, which, to my limited knowledge, was one of the more aggressive efforts to eliminate Eurasian milfoil. And it's mentioned in here that was ultimately a failure.
Manager Tofinelli, there has not, to my knowledge, been an accepted eradication of an AIS that were identified in this for a long-term eradication.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff Morton? I have one. The $70,000 rapid response, that's handled by Scott County then? Or we'd have to, let's say we found something in our lakes, we have to apply to Scott County to get those funds released, or how does this work?
President Loney, the funds are distributed by the state to the county level for this AIS funding. As part of this plan, it would be a cooperative decision to create an action that would ask for funding. I'm not exactly sure how that. Part of our goal is to create a scenario and work this through with the county to make sure that any sort of actions have appropriate response time, which includes distributing funds for an action.
I mean, would a good example be like Stonewort?
Starry Stonewort.
Starwort. If that was detected? I know we did some investigation, it wasn't detected, but if it was detected, is that where those kind of rapid response, that's the appropriate use of the funds?
President Loney, exactly. The district, part of this process of working with the county was that an interesting part of this was the county has really focused, has large focus on zebra mussels, where our district lakes, the tier 1 lakes, are all, well, 3 of the 4 have zebra mussels, so it's not as, we wanted to make sure aquatic plants and ones of emerging concern were provided in this document and being able to serve us the best that it could. So Stonewall, it was our example of why we're interested in creating a plan for plants.
Yeah, I think this is a good document, and I like the collaboration by Scott County. Christian?
Yes, the $70,000, is that a yearly amount? Is it a 10-year amount? Or?
Manager Morkenberg, that 70,000 is, I'm not sure. It's based on an annual allocation for the county, and after it gets used, I'm not sure yet.
Just a procedural question more than anything else. So this is Scott County's document, right? It's got their name on it, I assume.
Manager Boyles, it is, yes, it has been approved at the Scott County Board level.
Okay.
Yes.
But we already found an inaccuracy in it. Does it go back? Hey, we noticed an inaccuracy, and we think that should be dated or corrected?
Correct. This document has an annual review process, and it does get approved annually. So we've already, the district staff have already began making comments in the document.
That's a continuing effort. Okay, thank you.
Really, this document's already been approved by Scott County. And so the action to the board is to accept this, or our other option is we do our own. Is that correct?
President Loney, that is correct. The direction that we received from the managers earlier this year was not to duplicate efforts and for staff to provide review comments to Scott County for asking for inclusion into the county's plan so that the plan could be used by both the watershed district and the county. I think a number of staff comments have been positively reflected in this document from where it was when we saw it. And so, Scott County has been a collaborative partner. Did we miss some of the edits? Yes, we did. But, I guess we felt that it was getting pretty, it was close and good enough for us to use for this year, and we will continue to work with the county to, refine errors as we find them and continue to build this document to work for all entities.
Okay, I agree with that. So this is I think it is a voting item, right? Yes. So we need to make a recommendation to vote to accept the Scott County Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Plan 2023-2024 and Scott County Aquatic Invasive Species Rapid Response Plan 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Christian. Second by Matt. Any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, seeing any. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Next, we got another big plan. 2023 Carp Integrated Pest Management Plan. I assume, Jeff, you're handling this?
Yes, this is the annual integrated pest management for carp plan. So the district has used an IPM plan since 2017. It was developed with support from the DNR through a carp management grant. This plan is used to explain the district's adaptive management strategies to carp management. The plan describes techniques, approaches, and efforts, as well as its goals. The plans have been kind of a living document that houses how we do the program, how it works, what sort of efforts we've put in, types of equipment we use. It's a how-to on our program. Due for 2023, the IPM was aligned better with potential funding sources. What potential funding sources are looking for when we submit for grant funding. The plan also reflects what the next stage of management might look like, such as if we meet goals or if we change a direction or approach. This 2023 IPM plan shifts from hopefully what you're familiar with, which is the track, block, and remove centric plan, to more of a streamlined plan that outlines baseline data, which is what our population estimates, our movement, say where carp are hanging out seasonally, their paths, their spawning habitat. And it also, from baseline data, it moves into implementation. And this is what the district has heavily been focused on for the past several years, which is removing fish, installing barriers, installing traps, bluegill stocking. It's really the projects. And then this IPM plan, the third phase is maintenance. And this is the annual effort the district puts in towards maintaining and survey data. It's pit station monitoring, permits, aging analysis, telemetry, and other such just annual data collection efforts. This information is best, in this format, is best used in how the agencies are, what they're looking for when asking for, to get information for funding. So we felt it's best to shift track and align ourselves with our funding partners, as well as be prepared for what the next phase of carp management is, because we're looking at meeting these goals in a very short time, and we want to be prepared to answer the question of what's next. And just for a little more information, on the right we have a graph that shows where each lakes are at. Spring Lake is at 223 kilograms per hectare. Prior Lake, Upper Prior is at 189 kilograms per hectare. And our primary goal, which is what research would say is the ecological threshold, is 100 kilograms per hectare. And that's what we're trying to manage our carp population levels to. The plan outlines that 100 kilograms per hectare is our primary goal, and we have a long-term goal of 30 kilograms per hectare. Both of these goals support better water quality and minimizing carp impact. And if you're asking what's it going to take to get to this tipping point, in Spring Lake, that's 65,500 pounds of biomass removed. And in Upper Prior Lake, that's 31,500 pounds biomass removed. So you might see that, from a kilograms per hectare standpoint, they're pretty close. But Prior Lake is actually within, you know, a year's striking distance of meeting that goal. If we have a few successful and opportunistic removals.
Yep, quite a question.
Yeah.
I actually went through that same analysis a little bit using the report here, because you're looking at, I think, Prior Lake to get down to that level by 2026, I believe? Or is it 20, whatever it is? I counted like 3 years to get there, 3 years and 4 years. So basically, we have to get about 10,000 pounds out of Upper and 16,000 pounds out of Spring per year. Is that doable? Is that what you're thinking? I mean, I know we didn't do that last year.
I'm glad you noticed that. Those are conservative, at least in Prior Lake. District staff felt that's a conservative. This is also a partnership with WSB, our
Right.
consultants. They really helped guide us through this. In Upper Prior Lake this past year, we removed around close to 10,000 pounds, or 9,000 pounds, through district removals only. So that's non-commercial. And if we can continue to utilize some of those locations that we found effective, we felt that goal wasn't too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
In Spring Lake, we're given the current water levels that we felt that we're going to have to rely heavily on some sort of, larger biomass removal events, which is, commercial netting. That's
Spring was pretty low.
and we found that the error rate on our removal events is a lot higher, and we want to be realistic with these goals and provide understanding that we need the stars aligned to get that done, in a quality time.
Okay, this might be a stupid question, but why do we go with hectare or kilogram per hectare? I don't understand. I mean, I had to convert everything over to pounds, and
You can do that?
I can do that. I got an app.
Why they put pounds down there at the bottom?
But I just go, is that standard in the industry?
That is a fisheries
Okay,
standard. We've tried to integrate the units. It's just,
Yeah, I was able to convert it, but I just go, why do they do that? Okay, keep going, Jeff.
so yeah, based on this information, staff recommends that the board vote to approve the 2023 Integrated Pest Management Plan for common carp.
Okay, I had my questions answered. Anybody else have any questions? Christian?
Yes, I just want to compliment you and the staff of this very sophisticated carp management program that is frontline and very good. And I just say keep it up. And I'm thinking back how this carp management approach was about 15, 20 years ago, and it was very rudimentary compared to the sophistication here. So I think you have a very good program, and I wish you the very best and put in all the effort you can. And just one last question you alluded to, like with the current ice situation, that could be an issue for the bigger catches, because I think on Spring Lake, since that's probably the most important one for the big catches, it's currently labeled as thin ice out there, because of the ice conditions. So I hope that changes, but that may not change.
Manager Morkberg, yes. If that thin ice continues through efforts that past board members have kind of pushed and provided information and ideas, we have contingency plans to use, say, lighter vehicles, ATVs, or our consultants' ATVs to get the work done that's needed to be done. So we'll keep going after them.
Frank?
I note that you recite the various fish removed, carp removed, and how you did it. And at this point, when we talk about electrofishing, we're only talking about the boat, and the boat can only access certain areas, right? I'm getting to the other part, okay. So assuming we're successful in our request for funding, we'll have the portable electrofishing, and that'll allow us to get to other areas, narrower areas, shallower areas. What does it do for us?
Manager Boyles, correct on all of those. District staff have limited equipment to remove large amounts of carp. This electro backpack will allow us to make very timely decisions, use our carp espionage volunteer information, and to get a submission from overnight and target these fish at 8 a.m. This is a piece of equipment that would allow us to get into shallow areas, streams where boats can't access, utilize our barriers as better tools for aiding removals where carp tend to, seasonally migrate to, using these barriers as, a double-edged tool to block and remove, as well as other events where we could use this equipment to in combination with nets and other various. Yeah.
We were talking about safety earlier. This is safe for employees? It's not something where, oops, the wrong person or the wrong entity got the shock.
Yeah, correct. This is very safe. There's multiple safety measures on the equipment. This equipment is requires a permit that the district does have. So that's. Yeah.
Matt, you got a question?
Oh, I just wanted to echo the earlier comments. This report is excellent, top notch. I like the historical perspective and the goals on what we've accomplished or what you've accomplished, where you're going and what the timelines are. It's very well laid out, and I think Frank kind of gave you a little concern there that you knew which end you had to put in the water and which end you had to hold, but leave that alone.
Manager Tofinelli, if I can for a second here, through board support in the carp management program over the few years, the program and this document are being used nationally as an example for an IPM plan. So it's pretty cool information there.
I was going to say, we've learned a lot of things not to do as well as what to do. And I wish you the best. I mean, we see results too. We put a lot of money into this program and get that. I mean, we initially set our goal of 30 kilogram per hect, which is, I said, that's unreasonable. It's not, it's not attainable. But if we can get down to 100, so I have one last question. When you talk about phosphorus and carp, is there a ratio per pound, or how do you, like if we get 10,000 pounds of carp out, how many pounds of phosphorus is that? Is there a ratio?
Manager Loney, are you speaking of the phosphorus locked up within the mass of the carp?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I read the report, there's two, yeah, there's internal and external, but I mean, you're equating some phosphorus removal and cost per pound of phosphorus using carp. What is that ratio that you're using?
Yes, this is Lamar's equation, and it uses, it's based off of a peer-reviewed study where carp disturb the bottom side. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain level of disturbance per population level of carp over a certain area lake bottom, and it's used, so we use that, there's an equation that's built that uses the size of our lakes, the populations, estimate to determine what sort of disturbance and level of phosphorus
The
loading.
answer is there's not the answer. But
It's complicated.
But I mean, okay, I was just trying to equate, when we talk about taking out so many pounds of carp, what we could, and you can even give me a range, you can do another,
Oh, sure.
I mean, I'm just curious, how many pounds of phosphorus are we looking at removing? We're spending all this money, why? To remove the phosphorus. I assume when they stir up things, they might eat some of that and they eventually pass it through. So whatever they disturb up is the phosphorus we're concerned about.
Manager Loney, I can provide you next month or sooner what meeting that 100 kilograms would mean as far as phosphorus reduction and internal loading.
Yep, that would be fine. Okay, Matt, you got a question?
Well, just to follow on the road you took us down here, I thought that this may be, and just help me understand, on the alum, by removing carp, it maybe binds longer or better, because we're not removing any phosphorus. We're keeping it on the bottom. So I don't know, if you look at this, say we're removing anything, you're just keeping it on the bottom.
Right.
As opposed to suspending it in the water, and I don't have all the chemical knowledge to quite understand that. So while I like having a formula that I won't understand most likely, I just don't, we're not removing it, so I don't know if we're taking it down a rat hole. Well, I like, it's complicated. I like that answer.
Yeah, my point is, we're tying it to phosphorus. We either keep it in suspension so it doesn't come up. That's the whole idea. So it's still there. Yeah, the phosphorus is always going to be there. We just don't want to get it unbound. Back up. Okay. Well, is there any other questions from anybody? If not, we need to vote on the carp. Let's see. Yeah, the action is to approve the 2023 Integrated Pest Management Plan for common carp.
So
Frank made a motion to approve.
Someone
Christian
else.
second. Any discussion on the motion? None? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Same sign, motion carried. Okay, we're at the point of our treasurer's report by Christian Morgenberg.
Yes, thank you. In general, our finances are in good standing. We are meeting our budget. The statements that you can see for general and implementation fund do not fully reflect the expenses for the district in 2022. And the reason is we are still receiving and paying bills the next 2 months. There are some fairly large expenses that are coming in, an example like chemical analysis, farmer-led council, and so on. Luckily, those are primarily from the implementation fund, which is where we still have the most resources left. Another set of good news is that we have successfully closed our previous bank accounts and transferred all funds to the 4M fund. Lots of work from Joni with help from our accountants. And so thank you so much. We are using that transaction for our transactions are managed via 4M, and we're using US Bank as a mediator. We are working to get all managers to be authorized as signers for our transactions. Looking at the restricted and committed funds, there was one thing. I have 1.3 million in the restricted and committed funds, and it basically is permits, it's PLOC, it's alum, it's Upper Watershed Blueprint Fund, and debt payment. The one thing that I want to point out is that if you look at the Prior Lake Outlet Channel funds, the Prior Lake Outlet Channel is the most effective way and important way to try and prevent flooding in Prior Lake. That's why it's very important. We match it together with a lot of partners, Prior Lake City, and all the way to Shakopee, where the outlet is to the Minnesota River. That fund is required to have $260,000 reserve in case there is a problem, acute problem. And that's what you see in the PLOC contingency reserve, which is $262,000, and that has to be there according to the agreement. What you also see is there's a negative $12,600 in the OMN funds, and basically what that means is, for us, it means that we are funding the projects and essentially as a bank for all the partners. And eventually we will bill our partners and receive these funds. And we discussed on how best to do this, and my hope is we could minimize from when we lay out till we receive the funds, but we'll work on that in the future. The cash flow chart, as you can see, we got a big jump in our cash reserve. Received our levy, and but this will then decrease over the next 6 months, and we want to make sure we don't get below where we should be. And based on our project, we shouldn't, but that's our goal. One last thing, mentioned by President Loney was we had why is the amount in the levy received $20,000 less than it was approved in 2021. And so basically we received a levy of $1,828,000, and the proposed decided final budget was $1,848,000. So a difference of $20,000, so we received too little in the levy. And the answer to that is not all people pay their taxes on time. And that's where this deficit comes in. And so gradually over time, we will receive some of the $20,000, and in all likelihood, it's very possible we won't receive all the funds in the levy.
Question, I mean, I just started looking at that, but every year it could be different. It may not, because, and Frank might know this better, we don't always get all the tax receipts from what we propose a levy amount and what we get in receipts may not be the exact number.
No.
Right?
Like most things, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
There is some residual.
Yeah,
Now,
so-
I don't know what extent that would be.
Christian said there would be there's some funds or late receipts coming in.
We expect over the next year to, especially in the beginning, probably to receive more funds, and then gradually probably be less and less. But knowing that not everybody will pay taxes, at the end we probably won't receive the full $20,000.
Good. Follow up.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Any other questions for Christian on? Jody, do you want to address the HELOC, the deficit right now? I know you and I talked about it a little bit.
So the funding formula for the PLOC has a lot of a lag in terms of how the district recoups funds from the cooperators. So the intent is that we need to, based on land transfers, some adjustments to the financials, and as early as the February cooperators meeting, we will now have the dollar values to assess the cooperators for 2023, which the district will issue those invoices and request, payment as possible, which is usually within a month or two for all of our cooperators. So yes, there is about a 4-month lag when the PLOC funds actually complete all of the projects that they budgeted, like we did last year. We fully spend down the PLOC budget, and that's when we run into the deficit issue. If the cooperators want to change the formula so that we don't run into the situation, that is an option. but previous discussions indicated from the cooperators to keep it, the funding formula as it currently is functioning. And this is one of those potential negative situations when we actually do fully expend all, or complete all of the PLOC projects that were in the budget.
Yeah, and another thing, we've talked about PLOC lining project, which isn't currently in our budget. We'll have to work through that with our cooperators too. And we'll probably deal with that in our February PLOC meeting. So just one more, I don't want to say hurdle, but one more thing that we have to work with to see how we can get that done. But that's, we are the administrator of the agreement. So we do the projects and the cooperators reimburse. That's kind of how it's. And if there's insufficient funds, I assume we take care of that until we get reimbursed. So kind of a mini bank, I would say. Not a big bank, but a mini bank right now. So we'll get that. We can address that at the next PLOC meeting.
Yes, if the board would like to, bring that forward once again to the other cooperative discussion about amending current funding formula, there's ability to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. Nope. Good report, Chris. Good job. I like all those on there, amount subject to change during preparation of the audit. So that's a real catch-all. That's complicated, yeah. Okay, now we're going to move to consent agenda. These are items that we can do with one item of business, routine administrative items requiring discussion. You can remove an item if you so choose by board member, staff member, or member of the audience. So the items on the agenda are meeting minutes for December 13th workshop and board meeting, claims list and visa, expenditure summary, 2023 permit fee schedule, schedule of 2023 board meetings, 2023 CIC meetings, approval of 2023 CIC members, selecting the 2023 official newspaper, selecting the 2023 district depository bags, and the 2023 WSB CARP management service contract, which will kind of tie to our integrative CARP plan that we just recently approved. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ben. Second, anybody? Second. Second by Matt. Okay, we can't discuss any of these. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Yeah, motion carries 5-0, which is good. Okay, the upcoming meeting schedule here. CIC meeting is Thursday, January 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Prior Lake City Hall in the Wagon Bridge Conference Room. Our next meeting, Board of Management Workshop, is Tuesday. It's February 14th. And our regular board meeting will also be that day, February 14th at 6 p.m. Workshop is at 4 p.m. Managers, you have to clear your calendar for the 14th. Okay? So with that, I don't have anything else. I think we're at a point of adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, by Christian.
Second.
Second by Ben. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're done at 7:16.